story when humans stole death. Prior to the war between the divines and the infernals, humanity was seen as nothing more than intelligent beasts. Out of all the races in the whole world that are claiming sapience, they were the only ones without a gift, be it divine or infernal. That means they were created neither by a god nor by a Baal. It is theorized that they came from a breed of a long-extinct arboreal animal, and that their transcendent form is only a product of evolutionary coincidence. Right, you probably don't know what a transcendent form is. Well, simply put, it is the very image of both gods and devils, extraplanar beings endowed with incredible powers, so much so that they are capable of creating entire races of intelligent beings. An upright stature with the head on top, 2 arms for manipulating the world, and 2 legs for traversing the world. Only with a transcendent form can a species conquer the world and ascend to the stars. Only their creations, the Zam's sapient races in the world, possess the transcendent form they bestowed upon their creations as proof of us being closer to transcendence than the other life forms. Well, except humans, of course. We call them different names, but in truth, both gods and devils are the same thing. Their differences lie only in their philosophies. The divine faction sought absolute order in the world, while the infernal faction sought absolute freedom. Of course, over time, these ideals would eventually pervert into tyranny and chaos respectively, a bastardization of what was once noble pursuits. This schism is what sparked the planar war that caused the death of all the gods and devils, leaving the angels and demons without leadership. With a massive power vacuum, and the lesser extraplanar beings all aiming for the powers that their masters once possessed, the Rupturing War started no more than 100 years later. I envy the humans who were born immediately after the planar war, as they no longer lived to suffer through what came after it. The mortal realm, being unfortunately situated in the middle of the 2 domains, became the theater of war. The new rulers cared little for the creations of their previous lords. All that they saw of us mortals were shattered fragments of divine or infernal powers that must be consumed so they can make themselves more powerful. Elves, dwarves, halflings, orcs, kobolds, and goblins all became prey. I'm sure there are many more sapient races created by less prominent gods or devils, but nevertheless, the point is all mortal life became endangered. All except for humans. With neither the divine nor infernal essences in their souls, humans were largely left alone by the invaders. What casualties humanity suffered can be attributed mostly to collateral damages from the tiny human population living in other races' cities. It pains me to say this, but those were most likely human slaves. Enslaving a human was not only accepted, but a practice that many races openly partake in. Though there were ways be those, like me, who abhorred the idea of slavery. My views of humans as intelligibles were sadly in the minority. Most would speak of them as something more akin to mindless, instinctual beasts whose only purpose is to serve the gifted races, either with physical labor, sustenance, or worse. Yes, human farms existed, especially in the fringes of the Western kingdoms. It was incredibly easy to capture a human as well. Every race outperforms them in virtually any category, be it magical ability, sheer raw strength, agility, and speed, or even in technological prowess. They were always outclassed, outgunned, outfawned, outfought. In fact, the only reason why human kingdoms could exist was because of us elves and the dwarves, who saw the merit in an autonomous ally that can quickly and reliably supply manpower and labor for very cheap costs. They were not good at anything, but they can do most things well enough. If we need miners, we pay the humans. If we need farmers, we pay the humans. If we need bait for a dragon subjugation, we pay the humans and their surviving families. Of course, they didn't know they were bait. I digress. As the Rupturing War raged through the world, the various gifted races all dwindled in population as we get pushed back further and further, until there was nowhere to go but the human kingdoms, who were left relatively untouched because, well, neither the angels nor the deity. From them. This is the end. We thought, there is no way the humans will let us into their kingdoms and shelter us within their walls. Not after what we've all put them through. For all their existence, transcends was treated as animals to be used and discarded, so it came at a great surprise when their gates opened to us, gave us their food, and put us under their roof. I could not, nor the life of me, understand why humanity would take this path. It was all too easy, preferable even if they just sat the war out, let the angels and demons run over the world, then built upon the ruins of the bygone races. And yet, they stuck their backs for us. They invited danger to themselves in order to save us. Needless to say, it didn't go well for the humans. The gifted races' armies were all decimated by the angels and demons, and those were kingdoms with superior magical, martial, or technological prowess than them. One by one, the human kingdoms fell to rubble like grass folding underfoot. The angels and the demons still fought each other, of course, but when they were not, they were attacking humans. And then, it was down to Alexandria, the last city of the last human kingdom still standing. At this point, I and many others had already accepted our fates. There is no stopping the war, not now, not anymore. Perhaps if we had just recognized the threat earlier and mounted a united front, we could have had a semblance of a chance. But there is no use thinking of what-ifs anymore. It was already too late. Except the humans thought differently. Like us, their faces painted fear and dread. Their expressions were grief-stricken, but unlike us, their eyes burned with determination. Several human soldiers marched through the streets, littered with various races that had already given up, just awaiting their deaths as they watched the skies. Some even took matters into their own hands, despite the efforts of the humans trying to convince them otherwise. I have no idea where they get the will to still fight after such an insurmountable obstacle, but I, like many others I was with, was all out of will. That day, I could tell the humans were planning something. It was busier than usual, and even the civilian women and children were moving with impetus, as if they had a job they must do. I knew whatever plan they had, it was all fruitless, especially now that the angels and demons have consumed millions of sapient souls. When the bells rang, every human clamored towards the gate. It's another attack, so they're rallying up infantry to sacrifice. This time, however, was different. Through the littered main road, they carted off something I hadn't seen before. A spherical glass structure of some kind, with engravings at the base of what I can only surmise as millions of handwritten glyphs and incantations. The contraption passed mere inches in front of me, but even at that close of a distance, I couldn't read a single word on those writings. I wondered to myself how they engraved those. The level of craftsmanship must have been immense, not to talk about the mages tasked with actually turning millions of incantations into an actual effect. Those who hadn't completely resigned themselves to death followed behind the human defenders to the gate. I, as a mage, couldn't help myself but be curious. It's definitely going to fail, I thought. There's no way something like that will work. Glyphs are very intricate spells, even under the right circumstances. And with what little knowledge I had of the humans that time, I knew they weren't up to the task. Besides, what spell can single-handedly turn the tides of war? I stood at the ramparts as an entire legion of humans faced off against the angels. Humans fought boringly, as what one would expect from a race that wasn't good at anything. They will use whatever they can to gain advantage. They had field artillery copied from the dwarves. They had mages in the backline along with archers, and their shock troops are mounted on horses, as humans are nowhere near fast enough to charge with their own 2 legs. When the first wave of humans made contact with the Angels' vanguard, they were annihilated almost instantaneously by a beam of golden light striking down from the sky. This is a usual tactic by angels, so everyone expected this to happen. But what no one expected was the immediate second charge right after. The humans that followed pushed forward, almost immediately, to the point that they were trampling on their fallen comrades. Instead of fear, there is rage in their eyes. I began entertaining the idea that the humans drugged their soldiers for this battle, but something caught my attention. I suppose I should explain the angels and demons' fighting style first. As extraplanar beings, both angels and demons consume the souls of creatures they kill. This not only sustains them, but also enables them to transform the soul into another one of them, effectively multiplying themselves. A battle between angels and demons does not go this way, since neither can consume each other. But only when mortals battle them does this tactic become available. Indeed, it is a crux of their invasion and the reason why they are virtually unbeatable. Every kill just replenishes their numbers. Of course, if the mortal is gifted, then they also obtain that divine or infernal fragment. And yet, when those suicidal human soldiers fell to their deaths, new angels did not form as reinforcement. In fact, that opposite happened. The soldiers who just seconds ago were burned by holy fire began standing up again to strike at the angels. This caught the angels' army by surprise, since at this point they had already marched forward, so the dead human soldiers raised right in the middle of their formation. Chaos ensued as the angels all of a sudden were beset by enemies on all sides. I watched closely how the humans were able to stand up and fight again, as they were not healed, since their mortal injuries remained. That's when I noticed that those soldiers that are currently fighting again are no longer alive. Their souls have left their bodies, but how is their body still moving? And why are the angels not multiplying? A chill ran down my spine as the gears suddenly clicked into place. With a quick snap, I turned back behind me, towards the spherical glass. The humans were parading on the streets earlier, and sure enough, I could see them. Swirling mass of souls with not a single hint of divine nor infernal powers in them. Never in my life would I have thought of something like this. To forcefully capture a soul and prevent it from passing on. This is a crime against magic, against the natural order. And yet, it was genius. It makes absolute sense, considering the situation. If it were us Thithwood races, our souls will immediately be returned to heaven or hell to be turned into an angel or a demon at the moment of our death. Since inside us resides a fragment of our Creator's power. For humans, however, no one really knows where their souls go. It's theorized that they just dissipate into nothing, while others with more radical beliefs think that humans have no souls. Though I know most of those are just said to convince themselves that the atrocities they are committing against humans are justified. I looked back at the battle and saw that there were no humans left. Only walking corpses with blood, bones, and guts outside of their bodies. Traces of the angels' army were nowhere to be found. Only a few shimmering dust on the blood-stained grass remained, as the army of the undead banished them permanently, making short work of the angelic hosts who expected to replenish whatever loss they would have had with human souls. How could this be? I couldn't help but mutter to myself. The human guard standing beside me apparently heard. With a solemn but stoic expression and tear-filled eyes, he said something to me in the common human language as he performed a salute to his former comrades. Per aspera ad astra. The humans had stolen death. That's all for today. Let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on this. Make sure to subscribe to our channel.